Hello everyone. Ever wondered which aquarium tank to buy, whether to buy a big or a small tank, which material to choose, glass or acrylic, what should be the thickness of the used panels, where to place the chosen tank and how many fish that you can have in the tank? For sure, the aquarium tank is the most important thing that you need to choose carefully in this hobby. Other tank equipments can be replaced as you go, but it will be a big problem if you discover that you chose the wrong tank. If you want to know the answers for these questions, and much more, then this video is for you. Define the main characteristics of an aquarium tank. The aquarium tank needs to have transparent walls or panels, since you want to enjoy watching the fish, unless you are breeding fish and don't care a lot about watching them. The tank needs to be big enough to hold your chosen fish. You also need to be able to maintain the tank easily, so long vertical tanks might not be a good option, as they will require special tools to maintain. In the past, there were only glass aquariums, but now we have glass plus acrylic, and both have their pros and cons that we need to discuss here. Knowing the pros and cons of each will definitely help you on deciding whether to buy a glass tank or an acrylic one. First, let's talk about the transparency of the tank panels. Both glass and acrylic are transparent enough that you notice any difference, but for glass specifically, the less the iron used in manufacturing the glass, the more transparent the panels will be. This can be clearly seen on the edges of the tank, where the glass panels meet each other or are glued together. If these edges are green, then this glass is using a high iron percentage. If these edges are not green and tends to be clear, then this is a low iron glass, and of course the less iron means better aesthetics experience. In most places, you can easily find glass tanks versus the acrylic ones, but probably in your city you might easily find both. This is of course a factor while buying the tank. If you can't easily buy an acrylic tank in your city or town, then probably you will go for a glass tank. Glass is less expensive than acrylic and easily to maintain and clean, but it is much heavier than acrylic. Acrylic on the other hand, and although it is more expensive but it weighs much less than glass, to maintain an acrylic tank you need to be careful while cleaning it, as it tends to scratch easily compared to glass. On comparing which type maintains the temperature better, then acrylic wins on this front. It maintains temperature much better than glass, so if you are in a very hot or a very cold place and want to better maintain the temperature inside your tank, then probably you need to go for acrylic. If you plan to drill holes in the tank for a special water system that automatically changes water for you, then note that glass is tricky to drill such holes. Having said that, just note that broken acrylic panels won't be replaced or will be very tricky to replace, while broken glass panels can be easily replaced. You just remove the silicone adhesive used to hold the broken panel in position, clean any extra silicone, and glue a complete new panel as a replacement. On the other hand, acrylic tanks comes in a huge variety of shapes compared to glass. You can easily find a cylindrical shaped acrylic tank if you want, and probably this is because acrylic is much better in handling the water pressure than water. As you can see, each material has its own pros and cons. We can't 100% say that one material is much better than the other. It depends mainly on a lot of factors. You need to choose the material based on the purpose, so let me give you some examples here. If you want something less expensive, then you can choose glass. If you need something more durable, then it would be glass as well. But if you want something with less weight, then it would be acrylic. Or if you want something with better maintenance of heat, then it would be acrylic as well. For me, I have both acrylic and glass tanks, where each has its own advantages. What about you? Which material do you prefer? Let me know in the comments. It's worth mentioning as well that nowadays you can easily buy a ready-made aquarium kit, where you buy a tank bundled with a filter and light. These aquarium kits are a good option for beginners, but just note that such kits don't really assume that you will be using heavy hardscape, or even natural plants, where the bundled light is not very powerful, and the filter can handle a very light bioload, or a very small number of fish. To download this comparison table in PDF format, then please check the link in the description. In a couple of days, I will continue this topic by discussing the shape and size of the aquarium tank, how many fish to host in the tank, and where to place your tank, so stay tuned for the coming video. Meanwhile, please check these 2 videos for the terrestrial plants that you can add to your tank, and one very beautiful stone that we will use to create the aquascape. And finally, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments on what other topics you need me to cover in this series.